Hi everyone, this is Lomi. This week I'm working on the first piece of a boy's outfit for Little Fee. I don't have a small boy doll, but the Little Fee body is pretty much the same for both boys and girls, so Lulu can model it. I'm starting with a vest because I liked this fabric and really wanted to use it. So I begin the project by cutting out the blue fabric and some white cotton as a lining. I pin the shoulders of the fabric with right sides together. I sew the shoulders closed, then do the same thing with the lining, sewing just the shoulder seam. I trim the threads and then finger press the shoulder seams open. You can use an iron for this if you prefer, but I find running my thumbnail firmly over it usually creases the fabric well enough. Take your lining fabric and vest fabric and place right sides together. We'll sew it around the armhole and the neckline, leaving the other seams open for now. You may want to backstitch at the beginning and end of these seams, as we'll be pulling on the fabric quite a bit. Just around one armhole, then we'll do the other the same way. We'll want to clip the curved parts of these seams, notching them by making little snips toward the seam, but not all the way to it. This will help the fabric turn right side out smoothly later on. The curve of the neck seam is pretty tight, so go slow when you're sewing it. It may help to lift the presser foot and turn the fabric a little at a time instead of pulling the fabric to turn it. Then clip the curve the same way as for the armholes. It'll look something like this. Now we'll turn the vest right side out through the shoulder. Take a safety pin and run it through the fabric of the seam allowance, as close to the seam as you can. This is the strongest point in our fabric and can best withstand the pulling. Then turn the pin so it slides between the two layers of fabric and feed it through the shoulder. You'll want to grab hold of the pin once it comes through the other side and pull until you see the fabric where it's attached. Then it's usually easier to grab that fabric and pull. You may need to use something to help push the fabric through, like the handle of a paintbrush or the eraser end of a pencil. I'm not pulling very hard, just slowly wiggling the fabric through so I don't put a lot of strain on it. Once it comes through, the shoulders are done. Now we'll close the side beneath the arm, lining the center seam up on itself with right sides together. This will put the lining for the front and back together, and the fabric for the front and back together. Then we'll sew this closed, repeating the process for both sides. It's kind of tough to see because this vest is tiny, but this leaves just the bottom and front edge of the vest open. To close the edge and the bottom of the front, we'll fold the vest so the right sides of the lining and fabric are together again. You'll have to kind of wrap it around the upper part of the vest, and that gets pretty tight as we go toward the back. We're going to leave the whole back open for now though. Right now, just worry about making sure the front edge and bottom front are pinned closed. We'll sew down the front edge, turn to sew down to the bottom of the point on the front, then turn again to sew up the other side of the point, just to the side seam where the front and back meet. You'll want to backstitch there. Clip your threads and the corners of the fabric so the front will turn more smoothly. Then, through the open space left on the back of the vest, pull the material right side out again. I use tweezers to make sure the front is nicely turned. Now one half of the front is complete. I flip it around and do the same thing on the other side, sewing the front edge closed, turning to sew down the point, then turning to sew up to the side seam. Clip the corners the same way and turn it right side out. If you make something using this pattern, be sure to post a picture on Instagram with the hashtag GlowMeTutorials so I can see what you've made. Nothing makes me happier than seeing other people's projects made from my patterns. Now all that's left for construction is closing the bottom edge of the back. Turn the edges to the inside of the garment and pin it closed. You can sew this by machine using top stitching if you don't mind visible thread, but I want mine to have a hidden seam. So I close the bottom by hand, going back and forth between the lining and fabric to create a hidden stitch. Then the body of the vest is done and it's ready for closures. You don't have to add anything to yours if you don't want. It's okay for it to hang open. I sew some tiny white buttons to the front of mine. Wait a second, I think I did something wrong. I'm going to be using Velcro to close this, so I put the buttons on the wrong side. This would be correct if I were making buttonholes, so these would be functional buttons, but I'm not. So I pull them off and put them on the other side instead. Then I hand stitched some thin Velcro to the inside of the jacket. I hate sewing this stuff, my thread always gets tangled in it. The soft fabric loop side is easier. I sew that on the right side of the jacket so that when my vest is closed, it looks like this. And now it's done. Unfortunately, the scrap fabric I used wasn't very big, so my stripes don't match from side to side. That's okay though, it's still cute. I'll remake it later with a bigger piece of fabric if I can find one. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.